My name is Emma, and I am 35 years old. I just got married 3 months ago to my husband, Liam, who is 3 years older than me. I never thought I would get married at my age, but at a matchmaking party that my junior colleague took me to, Liam and I hit it off. I began to think that getting married was not a bad idea. We were both not that young anymore, so we had talked about getting married in the future if we were to date each other. We got married about 6 months after we began our relationship. Liam is the youngest and only son. His older sister is married and lives with her own family. He said his father kept telling him when he was going to get married. Same for me. Now I work as a caregiver and live away from my parents' house. But whenever I go back to my parents always ask me, "Your sister is already married. What about you?" My family is a dairy farmer. I had considered taking over the family business, but my father told me that sales were declining and that it would be hard work. So I left my parents' home and took a boat as a caregiver. I thought that if I can take care of cows, I can take care of people. That's how I started my career as a caregiver. But of course, cows and humans are completely different. But I enjoy working with the people, and I now think that caregiving is my vocation. As for a marriage, we were pretty torn on whether to have a ceremony, but at our age, I don't feel comfortable hosting a big ceremony. But for my parents, I want to show myself dressing up as a bride. With that in mind, we had a small wedding with only our relatives as guests. I was excited about the prospect of starting a new life, but I can't believe what has happened. 3 months into our marriage, we were celebrating our first summer vacation. I usually go back to my parents' house, but this year I decided to show up at Liam's parents' house. My parents remind me, please don't give Liam's family any rough treatment. We always have relatives over for summer vacation, but the uncles just want to drink. So you don't have to do anything in particular.
Liam told me so, but it's not like I can go unprepared. I would dress as comfortably as possible and have an apron ready.
My parents sent me some dairy products that they make at home, so I was ready to take those with me as well. When I went to Liam's parents' house on the day of the event, it seemed that his relatives had already arrived, and I could hear the lively voices inside.
Welcome back, Liam, and thank you, Emma, for coming such a long way.
I was surprised that he came out, since he has a difficult time walking. He noticed what I was thinking and says, "If I don't move a little bit, I won't be able to walk as much." The elderly father-in-law was not healing well and always needed to use a cane. However, he's otherwise healthy and a good father-in-law who treats me well. If anything, the problem is my mother-in. Blah. Blah. The problem is my mother-in-law, if anything.
Liam, come quick.
His mother beckons from the back. My mother-in-law only sees Liam. I didn't realize it before I got married, but she really loves Liam. Even after marriage, she frequently calls him. I gave my father-in-law the items that had been sent from my parents' home. Here it's from my parents' house. The father-in-law is happy to see it.
This cheese comes directly from the producer. I'm impressed that your family makes products like these as well.
I am proud of my parents when he says that he is impressed. But mother-in-law gave a small sigh and walked away. I guess she didn't like it. I was a little concerned, but since father-in-law is happy, I let it go. It seems that the people who are here today are blood relatives of the mother-in-law. I was briefly introduced to her sister and her son, her younger sister and her son, and her brother. Liam's older sister is also here. I was taking a break so I could have lunch when my mother-in-law turned to me and said, "Emma, could you go for a walk with your father-in-law? He usually has no one to take care of him, so it's hard for him to get out."
He usually has no one to take care of him, so it's hard for him to get out.
My father-in-law refused to let me take care of him when I came all the way here to visit, but I took it in stride, thinking it would be easier to go for a walk with my father-in-law than to stay here. Liam said he would go with me, but mother-in-law stopped him and I took my father-in-law out. When we returned after a 30-minute walk, we heard voices from inside, seemingly unaware that we came home.
So, your daughter-in-law is your home care nurse, huh?
It is my mother-in-law's sister who says this with a laugh. My mother-in-law also laughs in response.
Yes, I can't take care of my husband. That man is just disturbing me, just being at home. Liam says he'll move in with us sometime in the future, and when he does, we'll have her take care of him.
What, living together? I haven't heard anything about that from Liam. I pretended not to hear that, but my father-in-law, who was walking slowly, heard it. To my support, I can see my father-in-law's face becoming stern. Then I heard Liam's voice.
It rang a bell when she told me that she's a caregiver. If I marry her, we won't have to pay for caregiving expenses, right? Otherwise, why would I marry a 35-year-old and when we're done caring for our sister home, we can just split up?
Well, you can't help it because that's the only thing she can do. Her parents are dairy farmers, you know? Cheese as a souvenir is so funny, isn't it?
I can feel the blood rushing to my head at my mother-in-law's words. It is cheese that my parents made after trial and error, and they are very proud of it. But I'm with my father-in-law, and I know if I should complain.
Her father was so pathetic for crying at the wedding. He was holding Liam's hand, telling his best regards. It's so annoying.
Acroleos and a great bisty question situate. I would understand if she was younger, but I can't believe he was crying at his 35-year-old daughter's wedding.
My sister-in-law continued after her mother. Is that what these people thought all this time?
Even at our premarital meeting, you could tell that he wasn't used to wearing a suit. And at that time, he asked me to milk the cow if I ever went to her parents' house. No way, cows are dirty. I wonder what kind of nerve that father has. All he's been doing is taking care of his cow, so he hasn't really kept up with the world.
I heard my mother-in-law say these words and I couldn't take it anymore. When I tried to open the door, my father-in-law stopped me, and he opened the door. In an instant, the room is quiet and everyone's eyes are focused on us.
You people, do you have any idea what you're saying?
Oh, I didn't know you were home. Do you want some tea?
He said firmly and no need. I glared at Liam. Hey, what did you mean by that?
As Liam was mumbling, his mother-in-law interrupted him.
Hitchens. I was just telling the truth, wasn't I? Your father doesn't wear a suit and he's not well dressed. What kind of a person is he?
Certainly, my father doesn't have a job that requires him to wear a suit, but he takes pride in his work and has never done anything that would make people think he is stupid. There is no such thing as not being well dressed. I can't tolerate people making fun of my parents for raising me, even if they say it was a joke. Liam is free to do as he wishes, but I will insulate myself from you and your in-laws. I will also never see your relatives again.
Then Liam's expression changed. Liam says, "Then we'll get a divorce. Get out now," he said loudly. I sighed, turned down my heel, and left the room. My father-in-law stopped me, but I can't stay here anymore. As I left, I heard my father-in-law yelling inside. I feel bad for the father-in-law, but as long as Liam is like that, I choose to divorce him, because to them, I'm just their caregiver, and considering how they discussed about me living with them without ever telling me, who knows what's gonna happen next? Above all, it is absolutely unforgivable to make fun of my father like that. Dean cried out of frustration and regret, wondering why I couldn't have talked back better. I cried out of frustration and regret, wondering why I couldn't have talked back better. I miss my parents' house terribly and take the train heading towards its direction. Instead of going home, my parents' house was closer and the timing seemed right. Touching when I arrived at my parents' house, they were worried about me and wanted to ask me something. I began to tell them what had happened at my in-laws' house. That Liam was thinking of having me as a caregiver, and that he said we could split up when I was finished caring for his father, and how my mother-in-law humiliated me by insulting my parents' home. Then I tell them that I've been told we're having a divorce, and how I'm thinking about doing so too. But both my father and mother nodded silently.
How long are you going to sulk?
He says it as if it's my fault. That attitude made me mad again.
I'm not sulking. I'll be back this weekend with the divorce papers.
Then Liam said, surprisingly, "What, divorce papers? What are you saying? So, when are you coming back?"
What, you're the one who said we're getting a divorce?
I was me divorce? I didn't say that. When...
He is starting to panic about something. Apparently, he really doesn't remember. Then he started talking about yesterday. I took a nap, and when I woke up, you were gone.
My dad is mad at me all the time, and I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't drink that much.
That's how I figured it out. Liam, who is a weak drinker, often loses his memory when he is drinking and falls asleep quickly. So I told him not to drink, but his mother suggested him to drink when I was out for a walk.
Says you're a bad wife who won't even let her husband have a drink.
He says such things without hesitation. All I could do was sigh at his words.
I didn't marry you to provide care for your family, and I never heard anything about living together either. Sick, and you're divorcing me when I'm done caring. Then you can divorce me now. I have no intention of caregiving.
When I said this, he began to panic again. Wait a minute, why are you saying stuff like that?
You said so yourself. I'm sorry that I'm not young enough for you. You listened to your mother over me and drank alcohol, right? How can you say something like that and expect me to continue our marriage happily? From now on, have your mother wake you up in the morning. It was very hard for me to wake you up every day because you were always grumpy in the morning. And I don't even get a thank you because it became normal for me to wake you up. Even when you're talking with me, you prioritize your mother's phone calls. And if you love her so much, why don't you go back to your parents' house?
If I do that, I'll have to take care of my dad.
Oh, so I'm really just a home care nurse for him after all this talking. I am still not getting an apology, so I hung up the phone. With that, I bowed and gave the divorce papers to Liam. I'll go turn it in after this.
Are we really getting a divorce?
It's obvious, isn't it? Just because you said it in a drunken moment doesn't mean it's acceptable. If you say you won't divorce, then break off relations with your parents and relatives. But you can't do that, can you? If you want a caregiver so badly, I'd be happy to take care of your father as long as you pay me even after we're divorced, and I'm a stranger.
That doesn't make any sense.
I know, because I was supposed to be your daughter-in-law who'd offer free caregiving, right? But if we stay married and the time comes when you need some care, there's no way that I would take care of you. Or would you rather prefer me to act like you do now, lying to everyone that I'm taking care of you while I'm actually doing nothing for you? That sounds like a lot of fun.
The mother-in-law's face turns red and gets angry.
I told you, I'm not his wife anymore.
Etchen Asiris. When I glared at the mother-in-law and Liam finally gave up and picked up a pen.
Emma, I'm so sorry. Then you should write this down too. As Emma said earlier, I don't remember you taking care of me. Not even a little. You wouldn't even help me with rehab. I'm too old now, and I was going to a little frustration to myself until I go to my grave, but I can't do this with you anymore. It's a divorce.
Exception CZR. It was an unexpected turn of events, but apparently the father-in-law was quite frustrated. The mother-in-law signed the divorce papers, thinking high and mighty that if she left, there was nothing he could do. Worried that I was late, my father showed up, so I left my stuff with him, and I helped my father-in-law to leave the house. I decided to have my father-in-law get in the car as well and give him a ride on the way of the divorce and return to my parents' house. After that, the divorce papers were successfully filed, and the property was divided properly. After that, the divorce papers were successfully filed, and the property was divided properly. I was back to being single. The father-in-law left too, filed for divorce, and became a single man as well. The mother-in-law was supposed to stay with Liam, her favorite son, but her over-involvement escalated. She pretended to be his girlfriend, delivering his lunchbox to his office, something that would just happen in an old TV drama, and now their relationship has gone downhill. However, Liam can't get his mother to move out since he can't wake up in the morning, and it seems like they're living in an awkward state. Also, Liam's mother was not willing to work, and Liam had been splitting living expenses with me, said that he was running out of savings living with his mother. I refused to accept his suggestions to restore our marriage. That the father-in-law hit it off with my father during the car ride when we gave him a ride that day. He visited my parents' house and liked the cows so much that, to my surprise, he sold his house and moved nearby. I was back at my parents' house, so my father-in-law hired me to take care of him. And thanks to the rehab, he is now able to walk properly. Now we have a good relationship with him. Acts like an uncle. I am currently training under my father, determined to take over my family's business in the future. I hope to be the one to protect what my father has been proud of.